Hi YouTube, welcome back to another video from Wtf Rc Cars. So we've got the SkyRC Q200neo. Now these are a cracking little charger, pretty decent price, AC/DC, 4 outputs, but they've got one glaring issue, and I kind of think this has come about by somebody either putting the wrong value E-fuses in the machine that makes them when they surface mount, soldering them all on, or somebody just got a calculation wrong. Any of you with this charger have probably come across one of the ports dying. I'll plug the batteries in and show you what I mean. So on this particular one, A, B and D work absolutely fine. Plug a battery into C, it'll read the balance lead, but the main connection lead will just say connection break. And I've known some people think it's an issue with the battery. It's not. You've got 4 little E-fuses in these, and basically they just pop and then it breaks the connection. Now these E-fuses should be able to handle 10 amp or more, and even if you've got it set to just 6 amp, they'll still randomly pop. And then yeah, you end up with one port dying, then the next, and then eventually all of them die, and you've got a dead charger. Now, it's a relatively easy fix. Now, there is multiple ways of doing this, but I'm going to show you by far the easiest, and you don't need crazy solder skills to do it. But I'll bring you in for a close-up look, I'll show you the issue that it's getting, and you'll probably leave a comment below, because I'm sure quite a few of you have either known somebody with this or have one, and you got the same problem. So it's quite an easy fix, but let's bring you in, give you a close-up look, and see what you make of this one. So first off, let's connect his battery. So we've got negative on balance lead to that side, and for this I'm just going to power it off DC, just so I don't have AC cables flying around everywhere. But you can see the charger comes up fine. It's detecting a battery on port C. If we go into it, we've got everything set right, storage charge, current only set to 6 amp. But if we try and charge, you can see it says connection break, even though we've got a perfectly good battery connected. And if I disconnect the battery from this port, and we go to D, we've got all the same settings. Scroll down, and it charges absolutely fine. So let's show you how to get this thing apart and see if we can restore all the channels. I'm not just going to do the fix on this channel that's faulty, I'm going to do it on all of them. So whichever port you've got that's damaged, you'll know how to fix it. And I strongly advise, if you're going to take it apart, to go in and fix this, fix all the ports, because they will fail. So first thing we're going to need to do is remove the 2 bottom screws. And these are just Phillips head screws, so quite easy to remove them. And there's pretty low risk of actually damaging the charger if you just take your time. Next, we're going to need to flip up these 2 little rubber feet, and if you get a knife blade right underneath them, you can keep the sticky pads intact, so it'd be quite easy to stick them back down. So if you just go with standing knife right underneath, you should be able to pop them off nice and easy. Then we got 2 more screws right down at the bottom of this. And that's got the charger loose. Then we can flip it back over, and you just got to be pretty careful with this bit, because this is where your screen's connected. And see if I can get this on camera. It's going to be a bit awkward, but basically you've got that tiny little ribbon cable, and inside here you've just got a tiny little flap down here that we've got to position the charger so we can flip it up. So if you very carefully fold it over, then we just need to flip that up, and then be very careful with that ribbon cable when you remove it. Put that to one side, and on here you've got your control dials, and I believe that's the Bluetooth. So next we've got these 4 screws that you're going to have to remove. And as always, when you're doing anything like this, it's really handy to have some of these little magnetic trays kicking about. I got these from Dave at RD Models, Chesterfield. And there's always a link on my videos to their shop. But we get these 4 removed, and then we can take that out. Next, one more screw, or 2 little screws right in the back on this power connector. So we're going to quickly remove those, and this will be a 3rd different type of screw. These are small black and quite fine thread. The little ones that hold the case together are quite coarse thread. So once we get that loose, I just have to watch these little black tabs. That'll let you raise this whole thing up and get it out your way. Then this one slides up. Try not to stick your fingers across the capacitor, it might not have drained down. Right, next we're going to remove the screws that hold this whole assembly in. So we've got 2 big screws at the back. These are big silver screws, so you're going to want to undo both these, and these are coarse thread and they don't make us job any easier with where they put the cable for fan. They've kind of wrapped them all around these pins and glued things in. So we've got this screw at the back. So once we've got them screws out, you need to remove the 2 side plastics, and you just push on the little tags along the top. That'll get both these off for you. We need to try and remove the fan, which for some reason, this is the first one I've found where they've actually glued it in. But you should be able to get the fan to come loose. And it slides up and out. I don't know why they've put glue on this one, but we've now got to try and get the actual main board out, and this can be a bit fiddly because they've kind of forced it in. But you need to try and slightly back it out and then get one side to lift up. And that's the actual main board free, and this is a good opportunity to unplug the power supply. And then, just to make my job easier so we ain't got stuff flailing about, I'm just going to cut this glue back on this plug and get the fan out of the way. So I'll remove the glue and get the fan moved, and then we can get on to the points where we need to be looking to see what needs soldering to fix it. So we've got the fan plug removed. You've just got the little notch that goes to the outside, and I just cut a little bit of glue off. I'm not sure what they were thinking with that this glue all over the place, but sure, they had the reasons. But basically it's this tiny little E-fuse, then we have another one on this side. So I'll see if I can get it so you can see it, but it's this tiny little white square. Now, to fix the other channels, the ones that we're going to need are on the rear. So if we just look on the actual board, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws, I think there is. So we're going to have to remove these because we need the rear heatsink off. So that's 1, 2, that's the third one, and we got 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. No, there's 9 screws. We got one more sat at the side of that post. So now we should be able to remove the heatsink. And if you just pop that off, we can see his last 2 remaining E-fuses. So we've got one here and one here, and you can kind of work out which channels are which from where the E-fuses are. So if we look on the board here, this E-fuse I believe is channel A, then the one on the back B, the next one on the back C, and then this one on the front should be D. So I'll show you on this side because it's going to be easier to do. And if we look at the port, it's this port that's dead. So basically we need to fix this E-fuse. Now there's a number of ways you can do it. You can use either a soldering iron to try and warm this up and remove the actual E-fuse and replace it with the same one, which is probably just going to pop again. They do look like they've got 20 writ on them, so I'm guessing they're meant to be 20 amp. But by far the easiest way, which I'm going to show you how to do on this, and it's the way that you're going to do less damage to the board and less risk, is to get a little piece of wire, solder, tin the whole wire, and then just solder it to each end, bypassing the actual broken E-fuse altogether, and then just snip the ends off, make it nice and neat. You're not going to get any problem with it shorting out on the heatsink because there's quite a big gap to it, and it goes over the FETs and capacitors basically to cool them. But yeah, we need to get a little piece of wire and bridge this, and this one, and this one's probably the more awkward to get to. So I'll show you on this side first, and then I'll crack on and fix all the others, stop it being an issue in future. Right, so first thing we're going to need to do is get a little bit of wire, and then we're going to need to tin the piece that we've cut off. If you just sort of spin it all together, make it nice and neat. And if you're finding it a bit difficult to get the solder to flow into wire, you can just use a bit of flux. And it will just get the solder flowing. So once we've done that, so we're going to want to try and get a bit of extra solder on the ends of this blown E-fuse. So once we've got a solder built up, should then be able to get our little piece of wire. And then all you're going to want to do is melt your solder. And we're just aiming to make a nice solder bridge across the top of that E-fuse. Then we can snip his wire off. So again, while I'm in here, just going to get plenty of flux on this. Make sure we've got plenty of solder flowing, and you might find it a bit easier just to slightly bend the actual wire. So again, I'm just going to aim to build up the solder on the end of the E-fuse. Then we're looking to get his wire bridge soldered cleanly across the top. Once you're happy with the fact that you've made your solder bridge, we've now got the actual E-fuse bridged, and you can take a multimeter and just go from the back to the solder trace coming out on both these to check if you want, but I'm pretty confident they're in. Next, just to make it complete, we're just going to put a solder bridge on that one and that one, the little white one, at the end of my finger. So I'll get them done off camera because it's already awkward enough getting around these posts on them. But I'll get them done and then I'll take a picture of them so you can see what they look like. So there we have it, all E-fuses now bridged out completely. These will never pop again. Yeah, if you're daft enough to do a dead short, your charger hasn't got protection, but at least your charger will work. And in all honesty, it'll probably just pop the end off of where these are soldered to the bridges anyway. So technically, it'll still pop, but there's plenty of other ways to do it. I just wanted to show you the easiest and the one that most people will have a soldering iron that will be able to do this. Now, yes, the solder station I've got, I could put Captain tape around all these to stop heat transfer and use the hot air to just remove that one. But then most of you is not going to have a solder station with hot air and Captain tape and some little ceramic tweezers. So I just wanted to show you a way of reliably fixing this and with stuff that you're likely to have. So next we need to get this lined back up. So you should be able to roughly get it in place. You'll see where the thermal pads are and you'll know when it's sat on right. Now we're going to go for all these really finely threaded screws. So we got one. I'd get these in first before you tighten them up. So that's two. That's three. Four. And we got a fifth one here. Sixth one. That'll make us seventh. And then the one that's hiding behind the post that I can't see where I am. So that's the eighth, and I believe hiding under them wires is the ninth. And if you pause on the pictures that I've put up, you'll see that the fuses are labelled F1 to F4. Now these have got like little spring washers on them, so don't massively over tighten this because you're going to risk breaking some of your silicon components. They are quite thick heat pads, so it shouldn't, but you don't want to put too much stress. The actual charger is quite efficient, so it doesn't get that hot anyway. Let's just make sure I've got every one of these tightened down. That should be his last one. So just a quick recap: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 screws. So once we've got them in, we can start reassembling this charger. So I find it easier to try and get this at a slight angle and keep these ports back. And then once you get it down, you can kind of get it into place. Make sure you don't catch that ribbon. So you've just got to kind of try and ease these front ports up, and usually you end up having to bend the side out slightly just to get it to go down in correct place. This is definitely a lot fiddlier doing it on camera than with it facing me. But the hard part is getting the front ports to actually lift up to be where they should be. And then you've got the USB-C port at the back here. That's also a bit awkward because that won't go down till these ports have lifted up. But there you go. So once we've got that in, we've got the 2 coarse screws that drop down the back. And these hold us bored down. We've then got the power in for DC, which, let's get that one out of the way. This is your 2 black little screws, or finely threaded screws, and just go careful when you're tightening these up because they are tapered. They'll work their way into purple plastic, and it's pretty close to the actual socket, so you could easily split it. The back of your case, you don't want to do that. Right, once we got that in, you've got your fan where you've got this little tag that goes to the rear, and then it sort of passes round, and then we've got to try and get that back in. Keep that cable that way it scrolls. So once we've got that on, you've then got your main power board, and we've got 1 socket on here, so we just need to plug that in. So that goes in that way. Then you've got to bring this round, and originally they have it pushed behind sort of that peg, but I don't know why they do, because it fits a lot better when you don't. So you can see that needs to sit to the side. Then we've got us cover that we drop on. Now these are the finely threaded ones, so we got 4 of these to drop in. Does seem easier putting these back together than taking them apart, but these are just going into nylon, so you don't have to go crazy tight with them. I think it's just to shield the airflow, make sure it goes where it should. So once we got them in, you got your little plastic tabs. If you push them on front bottom, they just clip back in. Usually goes better if you go bottom first on them. Then we've got to get this in place, which I'm not sure which is going to be the best way of me getting this on camera, because it's definitely a bit fiddly. So you get it all the way in, and then you just push that flap back down. And if you want to make sure, basically just push it in as far as it'll go, hold it and clip it in. And if you just put the top back on, we can then flip it over. We've then got our 4 remaining screws which go in bottom. And for the wire, I just used a bit of spare servo lead just to make these solder bridges. As I said, there's plenty of different ways of doing it, and you could unsolder all the E-fuses and swap them out, but if you use the same value, chances are they're just going to pop again. And we get his little rubber feet back on, they should stay put. So once we've got all that done, we should be able to power up our charger. And if we plug his battery into what was our faulty port, so then we go to port C, as charging's correct. So we're charging correctly on port C. And while we've got this all set up, we may as well run round and try his other ones. So port C is now fully functioning. Let's go to port D. So port D's working. I mean, these should all still be working because we've technically not made any difference to them. So that's working, and let's just make completely sure. Which side does balance lead on this one? I think it's to left. So if we go for port A, yep, no connection break issue. So yeah, little bit fiddly in parts, but overall not bad. And as I said, these are a cracking little charger. They just had a few design flaws, mainly those E-fuses, but yeah, fully fixed, fully working. And I'm pretty sure the way that I bridge these out, this will work for a hell of a long time. So we'll get this one back to its owner. So let's wrap this one up. So there you have it, the SkyRC Q200neo and the amazing E-fuses. As I said, there's plenty of other ways to do it. There's nothing stopping you if you have got a reflow station or a heat, sort of targeted heat gun. You can literally just heat them up with a bit of protective tape round so you don't damage any other components, lift them up, then bridge them out. I just wanted to show you the quickest, easiest way of bridging them out and making it a fully functioning charger again. I've fixed loads of electronics, including JTAG and Xbox 360s back in the day, so end of the day, it's going to work forever set up like this. There's no problems with it, and it gives you a fully functioning charger. And as I said, these are a cracking charger. Now you know how to fix them. Might be worth going around trying to buy some cheap ones up on eBay or Facebook Marketplace and yeah, just fix them yourself. You've got a cracking little charger. But thanks again for watching Wtf Rc Cars. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell, share to friends and family, and catch you guys again in the next one.